So hello guys, it's your girl Armani Stackhouse, and today we're here with a running candidate for sheriff, Jim Walker. And I just want to thank you firstly for being here with me and agreeing to meet me. And I just want to start off. Well, I want you to tell people who are you and why are you here today.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, and I appreciate it very much. I'm glad to be here. My name is Jim Walker. I am running for sheriff for Richland County. I am a resident of Richland County. I've been in the Columbia area for right at 23 years.
So there's actually not a lot of statistics on the city. Um, the most recent one I see is from May 21st, 2024. And it says overall crime is down 18% compared to this time last year, with violent crime showing a 27% decrease.
Somebody might say that's results. What say you, Sheriff, about that fact there?
I would say it's results. I'm not going to tell no tale. Yes, it is from the statistics that you have. I mean, it would be foolish for me to even try to rebut that,
Right.
all right, because numbers speak, all right. But that 27% decrease in violent crimes, does it consist of all violent crimes, a few violent crimes, or does it consist of murder? Does it consist of assault crimes, violent crimes in that nature? Does it consist of sexual assault crimes, or what? Or is it just the overall? All right.
It's just the overall, and I've been
Right.
trying to find something on the homicidal rate. What's the statistics for homicides in the city?
Right. Gotcha.
But there's
Understand.
nothing to see.
And that's fine. I mean, because they're going to be there, and the statistics are going to, people are going to look at that, okay, and the questions are going to be asked. All right. But in the same turn, those statistics there, have been taken into place and have been worked, and they've been worked hard. I agree that they should be there. All right. But you won't get a rebuttal from me. I'm not going to put anything or anybody down because of that. Okay. Because, yes, ma'am.
I did ask in reference to shooting in particular, then that's what he's talking about mainly. And it does state that from since June 3rd, 2023 until June 3rd, 2024, that 434 people have been shot between the ages, this is on WIS.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, WIS.
Okay.
Because they did the data demographic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and it said most of that is no older than 19 years old. So I just want to throw that out there because I was like,
Yeah,
that's
the kids.
mainly what he's speaking about is the
Mhm.
shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. What you think?
That's correct. I mean,
It's shocking.
that's speaking for itself. Okay. And now we have two different statistical ranges
Right.
Yeah.
that come in. One of speaking between the ages of 18 and 19 because we have a problem with weapons, because a problem with guns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And with our youth having guns and being able to get their hands on them, okay, which is a bad situation. All right. And then we have the statistics of lower crimes, of violent crimes, but it's overall lower statistics. There's something not matching there. Okay. Why are we having such high death rates with our youth, and we are having
434 babies.
yeah
were
or shot? Yes,
They weren't necessarily killed.
but they were just shot. They just
They've been shot
yes, and that's why we need
within the year.
to have be in a position to work and push, to work and reduce and understanding, because a lot of our young babies, those in 18 and 19s are still our young babies. They're still growing. They're not even grown yet, but they still need that education. They need to understand. The thing that we have the biggest problem with, besides gun violence itself, is we have the lack of knowledge of how our gangs operate, okay, and what they do. All right, what we don't understand is that these are people also, and people can be talked to. Now, I'm not going to say everybody can be reasoned with, but they can be talked to. And when it really comes down to it, these individuals know who should and who shouldn't be in the positions that they're in or in the vicinity of their organizations. And from my own personal experience coming up as a youngster, a lot of them don't want these little babies in their organizations because they're not ready for it, and they're not the type. Some of them, they definitely are not the types to be there. But we're not going to be able to save all of our children as much as we'd love to. There's just going to be some that's going to be hard-nosed and going to go their own way, and I wish they wouldn't. But also, our gang members understand that and they see that. So why not sit down and have more frequent talks with these individuals? Okay, I'm not saying that we're going to knock everybody down and be able to bust everybody, because that's not what you want to do anyways. You want to be able to bring in a piece of our communities and of our county as a whole, which in turn, hopefully, that will spread because people will see that and start being able to try to work on that. And who knows how it goes. But this is where we go when we sit down and we can talk to people and not badger or be belligerent about a person or people, or not belittle people's integrity or who they are or what they've done. And it speaks for itself. Okay, so.
Okay, so there was a recent incident where a young guy named Cyrus got killed by a store owner here in Columbia. And there was a lot of violent activity after that incident happened around that store. How would you have approached that situation if you were sheriff at the time?
Okay, so knowing and being familiar with that incident, it's a difficult question. I mean, it's a difficult question, and it's also a difficult answer because it's a number of different ways that situation can be handled or should be handled. Being in that position at the time, then for me, the way my mind thinks is to try, not saying it can be done, but that's at least trying to get part of who's the leaders of this organization to try to sit down and talk, to try to pull them away from that area, because they're wreaking havoc in the community. They're not only dismayed and mad about the situation of the young man getting murdered, all right, they're mad at the people and the ethnic group of people that did it, okay, which creates a problem within itself. So there definitely should be some type of talking and some type of negotiation with these individuals to try to get them, because there's also other people that live in that community that are afraid for their safety and for their lives. So our job without violence and to try to keep that down and not get into the word I want to use, I can't, but not get into a contest with them, I will say, okay, to try to keep it at a minimum, and by not offending anyone, so that we can sit down and talk to try to get them to pull away, to let them know that they're infringing on an investigation that we need to do, which was almost cut and dry, okay, but nevertheless, you still need to do the investigation. And it can't be hampered by, the people that are mad at this situation, thinking that law enforcement is not going to be doing anything, or that they're going to do, anything about it, or that this person is going to get off, okay? And which is not fair to us as law enforcement, but, nevertheless, we still need to talk. We still need to try to bring this thing down and not try to make any arrests, that haven't violated the law, that they're just being concerned citizens that are mad about someone killing one of their babies, so that's that's the way I would have handled it, or tried to handle it, being in that position, if I was the sheriff at the time handling that situation.
Okay. And I know you mentioned sitting down, with these organization leaders and whatnot, but there's a lot of racial issues down here in the South too, and a lot of people, how can I word it? A lot of races don't trust each other. So when you become sheriff, because I'm going to speak it into existence,
Okay.
um, do you plan on building a bridge between these different ethnicities and races to?
That I can't. I won't say yes. I will. The, and the reason I put it that way is because that's a very hard task, and that task comes from the way we handle our different community cultures. Okay, that's why it's very important, whether other people think so or not. It's very important that we have a program to where there is cultural diversity that's being taught. And the basics of that is this. We don't have to know the whole culture of how the whole uh, culture works, but we do need the basics and know where these uh, individuals come from their country, and how they are and what they are used to, the ways that they're used to living in their country, and then being able to help them to learn to turn to live and actually accept the living of here, but still have their culture at home, and accepting other ethnic backgrounds and other cultures that are around them, because we're all a culture together in the community that we're in. Richland County itself is a culture, and we have so many different cultures that are in Richland County, and we do need to learn to live together. And you're right, there is a lot of tension, I'll say, okay, between different races and different cultures. All right. Yes, to be a beacon for that is one of the best things for a sheriff to do, because they have such openness, and people look at them in a different light of who they are and how they do what they do. All right. So for us to be able to go to different communities and be able to talk to them about different things after we've done our research, after we've done our instruction and our teaching, to have our deputies doing the same thing. Because, for example, I'll give you a prime example. We take a Middle Easterner, say Pakistani, for example, all right, or Iranian. I think that's even better, because the way that women are second-class citizens over there are, they think the same thing here, all right, but it's not true. And we have to, if they assault their other half or their wife or girlfriend or whatever, then we have to take action against that, because the law says we do. All right. So if they don't understand that, then they don't going to accept that. The men are not. And I've seen it. I've been there. I've been in their country. I know how they are and I know how they act. Okay. So yes, it is very important for me as a sheriff or any person in that position to be able to, meet in that culture. I don't care if you're going over there just because those individuals are Muslims or what, but you need to be able to bring them to knowing that they have to respect the law here also, and they're not home. All right. And our deputies have to be able to know how to de-escalate a situation when they go to it, especially if it's about domestic violence. All right. And because it could go from bad to worse in a heartbeat. And we don't want that to happen. We also want our different communities to be able to communicate with one another and not stop getting so aggravated with each other. All right. So does that help you answer your question?
I remember the heart of the conflict being, these people keep coming in my store and stealing my things.
Right. Yes.
And then the outcry of the community gets, well, so what? But even if we did, that baby didn't deserve to get chased down and shot.
True. True.
Right? And
Yes.
so you understand that the heart of the conflict is,
Yeah, the harder it is.
no matter, I don't want to talk.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to calm it down. I don't want peace officers here trying to offer peace to this situation. I'm tired of these people stealing from me. I worked hard for my store. And they come in here, I got cameras set up, I show you that they stole, and y'all not doing nothing. So me and my son have to take things in our own hands, and we got to protect ourselves, because they got guns too. They gang members. They coming in here and threatening us. And any day they can come in here and stick us up and walk out. And I gotta pay bills at my house and I gotta pay for my business. And the neighborhood is outcrying and saying, you killed our baby, right? And so as a sheriff, the weight of that, even just me as a media person, I'm like, yo, that's heavy.
Yeah, it is. And you're absolutely correct.
That's heavy on me, and I'm not even a part of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm a part of it because it is my community.
Right.
And I know how we can be when it comes to taking advantage of people that are immigrants.
Right.
But I also understand how crazy it is
Mm-hmm.
for you to run out of the store and shoot my baby in the back.
Mm-hmm. And he
Because
wasn't
he
even.
stole a bottle of water.
Right.
But it's a buildup of things that happen. So it's like the conversation is necessary in the community. Does need to come together, and we need to do things like create content like this to bridge the gap on the conversation. But it's just I asked that question because I remember the energy being nobody wants to talk about nothing.
Right.
Lock him up. This our store. We getting all the beer now.
Mm-hmm.
We busting all the glass now. We taking everything out the register now. Call Leon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did.
And then next thing you know, it was yellow tape around the store and nobody could come around there. Thus saith the police and thus saith the Bloods in that neighborhood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was super inspiring to see that response was there, but it was a stalemate and there was no resolution.
Not without violence.
It's something, you know, a bottle of water, so it gets a little deeper. It gets way deeper.
It gets
It's like, why does he have to go in the store to steal a bottle of water? So now it starts with the home. You see? So
Why your son stealing?
Yeah.
So that
True.
goes back to the education and helping to see what resources we need to provide to the community to stop these types of
And what programs we can provide.
Right.
So there has been a recent incident at Spring Valley High School where a 10th grader, she did a report that a deputy whose name is Jamel Bradley, that there was some sexual misconduct between them two. And I was reading and it said that there was 5 complaints on the same deputy within his 9 years working at Spring Valley High School. So my question for you is, why do you think they continue to let him work there? And like, why did they sweep it under the rug, the situation?
It's not really a question that I could answer. I'll say this, I'll back it up a minute, okay? As far as it goes as the recent part of it, it was actually an incident that occurred back in 2018, 2017, 2018 timeframe, okay? The part that you just read today is more based on the conviction of that situation, but the penalty for the penalty of it and what he got as far as it goes is the as being convicted, what they sentenced him to, and which was 3 years of probation, and he wasn't required to register. Okay. Yes. All right. So that is what raises the question. All right. As far as why this individual was not really taken into a full investigation, which he was investigated, but when it first started off, he was removed from the school. All right. He was put in another school. All right. But they allowed him to go back, and then other complaints came out about him. All right. And that pulled it down. Now, while he was going through this, there was inquiries, and there was a full deposition that was given by him and by the sitting sheriff. Okay. Now, the things that were put on there, I didn't agree with, but who am I? I'm just a person that people are looking at. So I'll say this. Should he have been left there? No, because there were there was complaints that also came from other deputies that he worked with. All right. And that deputy worked with that individual at Spring Valley. As a matter of fact, he was a deputy that was spread it all over the news when he snatched a young lady out of the chair at the school. You remember that incident?
Is that like 2015, 2016? Around that time?
So, but yeah, a little bit after, somewhere around that time
Yeah.
frame. Okay, but he had actually made the complaint the first 2 times. All right, but also too during that time frame, one of the investigators that was doing an interview of this young lady. Well, according to what was in the news and what was in the papers, and they tell us not to believe everything that's in the papers. Okay, but in this case, yeah, this is you need to believe this. Okay, because she was one that actually believed this child. Now she's a baby. The problem I have with that is this. This individual, first of all, wears a uniform, or wore a uniform. All right. He worked in a school with children, and he was complained on not just by this child, but also he was complained on by some teachers. One being a cheerleader coach. All right, and this thing I say was overlooked. They may say no, but the fact of it is that he is an authority figure. So no matter what we might think, he has the control of that situation, not her. All right. If you think that she's telling a tale, then by all means take the investigation to the fullest extent against that individual to make sure that it's clear and it's clean. Not to assume or not to suggest that this child is telling a tale. All right. So by that, in turn, you say, well, that it's not believable. It was. Because if it wasn't, then the individual wouldn't have been so, he wouldn't have been so dodging. He was dodging and interfering with the investigation. Yes, that's in the paper, and it was also said by the department that he was interfering with the investigation. Well, my question is, when that happened, why not just lock him up? Because he had more than enough, because he was interfering with the investigation, his own investigation. All right. So what happens to that with the authority figure? So what are you telling people, that children don't have the safety, or they're not secure in the place that they feel that they're supposed to be the most safe is in their school, when they have a predator that was already deemed a predator when the complaints came out? You should have, because that's what brought it there. Now, what the paper was wrote up in the Washington Post was that what his sentence was, and his sentence was 3 years of probation and no registry. Now, who suggested that? I couldn't tell you. All right. But when it comes down to that, it usually comes from making a deal with the solicitor. How they came about it, I couldn't tell you, or what it was, but I know he had to at least pled guilty for it. So if you pled guilty for that offense, then why are you not required to register? Which means, now I'm trying to figure out myself if they charge this individual with a felony. Okay? Because I can't really get a hold to what's there. Actually, I could go request it and have people that are in the media to go request it, so they can see what's what. But to say what they charged him with, and it had to be a felony, or at least I'm thinking so myself, to make that deal. All right, because at the least he should have got at least 5 years, but this thing ran from 2019, around that time frame, to now 2024, and that's where we're at, what, 11, almost 12 years before this guy went before the court and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. So somebody was standing in the way, and this is things that citizens like a lot of our citizens don't see, don't pay attention to, and I believe that if they do see it, then they ignore it or overlook it, because that individual, once he starts speaking, people believe the things that come out of his mouth. So you take it from there now, and that's where, I'll give you that information. All right, so I don't believe that we should stand that high and that hard. He was introduced, or I guess he came about because of some event that was at USC, because that's where he came from. All right, and before he started working for Richland County. All right, and then he was hired by the sheriff. So that I'm going to assume that that was his prodigy that he was bringing in and putting in position to be a school resource officer. It takes a lot to be that, and they have to be the type of person that's there. He's not the only one. There's a number around the country where there's just last year alone, there was over 300 and something deputies or police officers that were charged with abuse and sexual assault of children in schools and stuff. All right, so yes, ma'am. But in this case, we're home. It's here. It's on our property. It's where we are, and our children should be protected and not belittled or not make suggestive thoughts or comments that this person's not telling the truth. So.
And did this happen this year?
No.
Research? With more justice.
Oh, got it.
That research, no, that was asked, I believe, I met them I met them just earlier this year at one of their first meetings that they had downtown at church, down by the State House. And from what I gathered, it had to have been the year prior or a few months just prior to that.
The first situation, I was still living in New York at the time, so I didn't even hear about that. Wow, but that's crazy. I did hear about the officer, I think, dragging the girl out her seat, though. I was living in New York at that time, yeah. Okay. Oh, gosh. So, there's this organization, this nonprofit, called More Justice, and they requested $50,000 from the county and from the city.
Yes.
And was it the sheriff's office?
Yes.
That told them no?
Yes.
Flat out told them no. They wanted to do research on gun violence, which is very important in our community. I feel like it's very important in, honestly, all of the Black communities and African American communities. But they told them no, but turned around and invested money in buying Mustangs. And now they've been racing people in the community, or have been trying to chase people.
Okay.
But basically have been losing that fight against the community because of the Mustangs.
Is it Camaros or Mustangs?
Mustangs.
Yes. I'm trying to think how to word this. Are you able to answer why you think, or why you heard, well, why is it a possibility that they said no to doing the research on the gun violence, but then turned around and invested the money in cars? Because it seems like they just care about the look of the police department, but not actually putting in any work to implement any real plans or real research into the community.
Well, I can't answer the question as to why the individual or why the sitting sheriff didn't agree to do this research, considering that this is something that he pushes for when he's doing his re-election cycle, or I don't know what he does prior to that, because I don't really see him that often, but you see him a lot when he's starting to run for re-election. So the purpose of not doing it, I couldn't really tell you, but I can say that it's a research that should have been done. I believe to my heart that it should have been done, because especially when it's been mentioned by myself and my opponent that that's one of the most important things that we should be fighting against is gun violence, and that he's truly against gun violence. So I'm perplexed. I'm dumbfounded myself as to why that was turned down. But the cars themselves are, as to the statement that he made, and that was outright, that the reason why he bought these hot cars is so that the citizens in the community, the parents, and then the kids can come up, talk to these deputies, and initiate a conversation with them, so that in turn these deputies will be able to sit down and explain and introduce themselves, be able to talk to the citizens and talk to them about the cars that they have. But what the trouble that I see, or the thing that I don't understand, is one, that's not going to happen, because there's citizens out there that won't walk up on a police car, whether they are, in a Mustang or any other car, especially if they're sitting still. They're not going to walk up on them, because of all the things that have happened, there are officers out there that are leery of people walking up on them. Okay, so I don't quite understand that part, but I can say to turn down a request to study something that will help the community and not push it forward, and then turn around and spend that kind of finances. I'm sure they're geared. The way their budget is set is they are allowed to buy a certain number of cars every year, okay, for that purpose. They exchange the ones that they have because of the amount of mileage and stuff of that nature. That's fine, that's true. So I couldn't really explain to you, but the two doesn't match. You spend quite a healthy chunk, well over $50,000 to buy those cars, but you refuse to do or to assist an organization that's looking to help the community by finding and doing research on gun violence and how to lower gun violence in their communities, and they don't get that help. So I can't really tell you why. That's not an answer that I'm going to even try. All right, because I would be guessing, and I don't want to assume anything about anyone, but just speaking the way that I just did, that tells the whole story. And the only reason why I didn't give the amount is in the paper. State paper, as a matter of fact, is the one that did the article. All right, and when they did that article, they actually gave the price of the cars themselves. It was just, you know what, the heck with that nonsense. It was just under $500,000. Okay, so, and to me, I'm just shocked as to why you would spend that kind of money and you won't spend $50,000, which is in your budget and more so, and not to find out something that you need to find out anyways. So yes.
It's kind of like what's actually going on in the
And those
world right now.
And
well,
that's
in
a
our
question
country.
that needs to be asked.
Yeah.
All right. And every time that we come up for re-election and we stand in that seat, then we should be asked those questions. Those are the questions that our citizens need to know, because a new candidate, even if I was in the sheriff's position, once someone challenged me to come up for that seat, then they have all the right to come up for that seat, because it's up every 4 years. And we have given this individual entitlement to that seat, and it's not an entitled position. Okay, it's an earned position. And that position, as far as it goes as being earned, has ceased to exist in this case, because the individual that's in that seat right now, the sitting sheriff at this point in time, all right, is in there as if he's entitled, and he's not entitled. Come out of the seat, let there be a fresh look at it, but also to take into consideration the things that we need to have done in our community. So that actually goes with a question that was asked a lot earlier during this interview, that those are some of the things that we need to do and that we need to look at, and how we need to handle our community. Okay, and when it comes to putting regular and good programs in, and looking at what type of programs that will fit our community and our lifestyle, how we are, and other communities that are involved with this, then that's what we need to do. And if we have the money to do so, then we need to do it. You know, so because that's, as a sheriff's department, that shows our citizens that we are the community and we are a part of the community. So when we do that, then we start to build, you know, a better trust and more collaboration with our community. And I'll leave that like that.
Just as we close here, we like you, Sheriff. We like everything you stand for and what you're doing. So as we break out of here, could you look at the people and tell us what you want us to do? You got us. Tell us what you want. We gonna give it to you.
Well, I tell you what I really need and what I really want
What you want us to
is
do,
the support from the community.
Yeah.
And I need financial support to help me put my campaign together and keep it moving forward, such as, you know, my literature, my signs, and things of that nature. And I want the people to know that the change is here. Change starts with us, and that includes me. The change is here, and I'm that change. All I ask is that you vote for me and that you keep in perspective that we need a different look at the way we do things and the way we should do things. And that please understand that I'm here to be just who I am. And that's a citizen of Richland County. And to be the sheriff of Richland County, to let our citizens know that it can be ran and it can be operated in a different way. All right, so my name is Jim Walker. I'm running for sheriff of Richland County. You can look up and read my platform at jimwalkerforsheriff.com. And you can reach me at jimwalkerforsheriff@gmail.com. And feel free to ask any questions that you like. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, it's Darius Dior. It is Armani. It's Think in the Media. Mr. Walker, we appreciate you. Salute to you.
Thank you, sir.
Hope to see you again.
I hope you have me again. You know?